Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming today, and welcome to the Officer, Detective, and Civilian Employee of the Year Awards ceremony. I am Commander Stephen Fraser. At this time, I would like to introduce the honored guests at the head table before you. Mayor Christopher B. Coleman, Chief of Police John M. Harrington, Federation President David Titus, and Reverend Rip Reardon.
I don't really have any formal remarks. We've had an opportunity to speak in the past at this ceremony and other ceremonies about how proud I am of the work that everyone does in this city, all the work that is being done by the men and women of this department, not only the sworn personnel, but the civilian personnel as well. It is what makes St. Paul a great city. It is what makes St. Paul safe. It is what makes me so proud to be mayor of this incredible city. The nominees that we have here today for Officer of the Year, Detective of the Year, and Civilian Employee of the Year really exemplify, I think, the spirit of this department and the spirit of this city. They work hard. They don't necessarily ask for credit. They don't necessarily even want particular credit, or they don't want to necessarily be singled out. They just want to do their job, and they know that by reaching out to the community, by working with others, by really kind of working in partnership, that their job will be that much easier. We're in a real transition in the city and in the state and quite frankly across the country and the globe. Our resources are strained. We have new challenges, new struggles that we have never seen before. Our community continues to change. That's not new. It's just changing in a different way than it's changed in the past. But what has always been consistent in this community is the commitment that we have to the men and women of the St. Paul Police Department. And what has always been consistent, despite the changes, is the passion and commitment of the men and women of this department to the city that they serve. It makes it real easy for me to do my job. As we look at some of the troubled communities on the east side, on the north end, in Frogtown, we know that there is going to be an extra effort that's going to be needed to make sure that people are safe. If we want people to invest in our community, if we want people to live in our community, the first and most important criteria is that they feel that this is a safe place to be. Once you lose that, it is really difficult to get that back. And once you lose that, the spiral kind of starts making its way down the line. St. Paul is a strong city because of the work that you do. It's a livable city because of the work that you do. It has a great future because of the work that you do. Thank you for everything. Thank you for your commitment, your compassion. To those who win awards today, to those who have been nominated, to those who deserve to be nominated and may be nominated in the future, I just want to simply say thank you. As the mayor of this city, I appreciate the work that you do. I appreciate the sacrifice for your families. I appreciate the risk that you place on yourselves. It's worth it, because it is what the essence of St. Paul is. Thank you very much.
I now have the honor of introducing to you the 39th Police Chief for the City of St. Paul. But before I do that, I would like to acknowledge that this ceremony will be Chief Harrington's last event of this kind as a sworn member of our department. During his 33 years, he has held assignments in the Eastern District, Emergency Communications Center, Training Unit, Juvenile Unit, and the Western District. He attended De La Salle High School in Chicago, received a bachelor's degree from Dartmouth College, majoring in religion and minoring in Chinese. He received his Master's of Arts in Education from the College of St. Thomas, and is a graduate of the FBI National Academy, National Executive Institute, and Senior Management Leadership Programs. Chief Harrington serves on several community boards, including the St. Paul Police Foundation, Metropolitan State University, De La Salle High School, Minnesota Humanities, and the Upper Midwest Community Policing Institute. And anyone who has ever been in his office, heard him speak, received an email from him, or listened to his voicemail messages knows that he often begins or ends with a quote or inspirational word or two. Because of this being Chief Harrington's last ceremony, I was charged by Angela Anderson to come up with a few great words about Chief Harrington. And we all know what's going to happen if I let Angela down.
You still work for me, though.
So as I searched for some inspirational words, I came across a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King. As with so many quotes of Dr. King's words, I found inspiration, but more importantly, in this quote, I found visions of my boss, a role model, and a friend to so many in this room. Someone who has really lived and served in the spirit of this quote. The quote reads, "An individual has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity." I challenge anybody here today to better describe John Harrington. Without further ado, I give you Chief of Police John Harrington.
I'll get even with you at some point. And Angela, you too. So, 5 years ago, I came to this podium to recognize St. Paul's finest. Over those years, we have demonstrated that my assessment was the truth and nothing but the truth. The best of the best. There are no other words to describe you all. Excellence is not just one of the values that I talk about. It's what we have, and I mean that as a we have repeatedly done. No other department anywhere in this country has done what we've been able to do in the last 5 years. With the help of great partners, the 18 Clan Council, the St. Paul Police Foundation, Travelers and Targets, we have reached heights of police work that weren't dreamed of by me or anybody else in this room. I want you to think about what we've done in the last 5 years. A 50% drop in homicide, clearing a 30-year-old police homicide, hosting a major national convention, providing tasers department-wide, building a state-of-the-art energy-efficient Western District and a closed-circuit TV system all at the same time. While, at the same time, we reduced domestic violence by 33% and reduced domestic homicide by 80%. I'm so proud of all of you. I mean, every table's got somebody that I could tell a story about. Whether it's Ray Jefferson and Connie and Tim Flynn keeping PAL and the future of our young people in their hands. Whether it's Johnny Vomastic and Paulie Paulus making sure that the homeless aren't forgotten and swept aside. And to top it all off, our Family Violence Unit has just launched probably the biggest blueprint that is going to guarantee safety for all the women and all the children in our city. It bodes so many wonderful things in our future. St. Paul Police have demonstrated that excellence and empathy truly do go hand in hand. Excellence is not a single act for us. It's a habit for those of us that wear the St. Paul shield. It is about not being complacent. It's about never sitting on our laurels. It's about when we have cleared 100% of our homicides, saying we could still do better than that we could clear the old ones up too. It's the will to win at all costs. These are our corners. These are our communities, and we are never going to give them up. St. Paul Police Department has a legacy of excellence that really spans decades, and I'm appreciative of the Historical Society. Many of my older brothers are over there at that table. From the cops, the beat cops like Tom Smith, who fought the Vice Lords on Selby back in the day, to Kevin Moore, last year's Flying Pig winner, who's making the Serrano's life hell right now. We have a legacy of never giving up. From Tommy Berggren, who helped solve one of the most horrendous crimes in our history, who brought justice to the family of Brittany Kekadakis and the other members on that triple homicide. To Nancy DePerna, my assistant chief, under whose watch the blueprint and saga were not only conceived of, but blossomed. Today we come together to recognize the best of the best for 2009. The best cops, the best detectives, and the best civilians. All of these great individuals share a legacy of excellence and public service. Now, this last year, as I was contemplating my last year in office, I thought a lot about our organization and about the values that we stand for. I've said from the very beginning that we are a department where excellence and empathy and ethics were the hallmarks of what great St. Paul cops were always about. But I thought there was something missing, and this year it really struck me, and this ceremony is a testimonial to that. What I realized we were missing was esteem. It's not enough just to say that we don't disrespect the public. What St. Paul cops have that's unique about them is that they love the public and the community they serve, even when they don't love us back sometimes. St. Paul cops understand that the value of our service is really measured not in awards and not in certificates. It's measured in the comments that I get to hear every day by the public who says we are doing it the right way, that we are the best of the best, and that they value our service. If I hear that once a day, I hear it 100 times a day. And it's a testimony to each and every one of you that's wearing St. Paul blue in that audience. My esteem for these officers who honor our badge and their oath of office really, truly knows no bounds. And today we come together to show our esteem for those of our own who have served with honor and distinction. We're going to start with the Civilian of the Year. Now, the civilians support our line. They are truly the glue that keeps us moving forward. In the last few years, they built our facilities. They got our accounts right and the budget in on time. They got me here on time and actually prepared to speak for once in a great while. We could not do our work if it was not for the civilian staff at the St. Paul Police Department. This year's nominees work behind the scenes as most of our civilians do. Bret Smith, our newest civilian manager, who's in charge of probably one of the least glamorous operations we have. It's a 24/7 salvage yard and evidence facility. It's just as much a crime lab as the crime lab is in its own right. But it has cranky visitors that come at all hours of the day and night to try and recover their property or to say wonderfully kind things about the staff there sometimes. Jeff Neuberger, a historian with a hammer, roaming the halls of the Griffin Building late at night as part of our maintenance crew. The 2009 Civilian of the Year is presented to Jeffrey Neuberger. Presented to you in recognition of your dedication to preserving the history of the St. Paul Police Department. For many years, the hallways of the headquarters were a bare place. They are now filled with over 250 photos that date back from the very beginnings of our department, through the gangster era and up to modern times. Employees, retirees, and guests now walk the halls truly in awe of the wonderful portrayal of duty and sacrifice and the tradition of our department. You have selflessly dedicated and devoted countless hours to this project and have funded much of it with your own money. As a member of the St. Paul Historical Society, you've taken an active role in assisting citizens who have questions regarding their ancestors' history with our department. Your research, which sometimes involves combing through birth and death records, census information, old newspapers, not only enlightens them about their family history, but provides them with lasting anecdotes to pass on to future generations. The passion and enthusiasm you display for the history of the department is quite admirable, and you are a source of great pride for our department. Congratulations.
I have several people to thank. Chief Harrington, Assistant Chiefs Bostrom, DePerna, and Smith have been very encouraging and supportive of my project. Julia Rust, who gave me the idea by asking, could I come up with a couple more photos? She had one that somebody gave the chief, and they kind of wanted a few more to go with it. Angela Anderson, Commander Sherry Gray, Officer Lyle Russ, and retired Commander John DeNoma that nominated me and put in the paperwork necessary. I appreciate it. Thank you. Steve Hitchcock was my former boss, very enthusiastic and got me involved early on in the project. Jeff Nowicki, my new boss, has been for quite a while on nights, who lets me put holes in his walls. There's about 250 now. I got about 50 more to go. And to the St. Paul Police Historical Society, always proud to be a member of. And the people that have donated photos and money to this project, thank you. My greatest thanks is to Bill Conroy. He's the man that makes the photos. This award is equally his as much mine. This project is never going to be finished. We're going to keep changing as we get new photos. We'll move them around so that you can never say, I've seen that guy for 10 years. I'm tired of looking at him. One final thing I just want to mention. A few months ago, a sergeant was looking at one of my photos. It was an old 1949 picture of a homicide sergeant investigating an assault in a bar on 7th Street. And he said, boy, things never change, do they? He says, bars still have assaults going on. They do today, they did then. And that's one of the things I think that's important about looking at these pictures. Don't see him as just as a guy in a funny hat with a handlebar mustache. They were doing the same job you do today. Basically, the job hasn't changed that much. The technology has changed. Certainly, styles have changed. The technology, like I say, some of the crimes, but it is basically the same job. So thank you.
The Silver Medal for the 2008 Civilian Employee goes to Bret Smith. If you wish to, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you.
Well, thank you very much. I'd sincerely like to thank you for this award. The organizations presenting the award are simply awe-inspiring. Number one, to the St. Paul Police Federation and all its members, I say thank you. I have found all your members to be extremely professional and great to work with. Number two, I'd like to thank Chief John Harrington and the entire St. Paul Police Department. I am very proud to be part of this fantastic organization. I have had nothing but positive experiences working with the officers and civilian employees of the department. There are a few people I'd like to acknowledge that helped me along the way. Number one is Sergeant Mary Nash, who is also my sister-in-law, and she encouraged me from the very start. Gave me a lot of tips on interviewing to get the job to start with, and they're tips I still use today, so thank you, Mary. I'd like to thank Commander Ken Reed, who was running the impound lot when I was hired, and he was a great trainer, a great leader, and still to this day, when I make a decision, a tough decision, I say, well, what would Ken do? So thank you, Ken. I'd like to thank Assistant Chief Matt Bostrom, who is a great leader. I have the utmost respect for him, and just like to thank him again. I'd like to thank a couple impound lot employees that are here today. Number one, Sherry Ward, who has 18 years in with the City of St. Paul and is on the front line every day dealing with the customers that are a little cranky. And the one thing about Sherry is she's super dependable. I don't think I've ever seen her be late to work in the 3 years I've been managing. And I'd also like to thank Mike Chickett, who is here today. He has 23 years in with the City of St. Paul, and he is exactly like Sherry, extremely dependable, and I can rest easy when I'm not there. I'd also like to thank my wife Julie and my daughter Maddie, kind of the reason I go to work every day. And we've missed some Christmas celebrations with snow emergencies, so I thank them for their support. This past year, I guess I never really thought about having a good year. and receiving an award for it. We just kept working our tails off at the impound lot. But looking back and standing up here accepting this award, yeah, I guess we did have a challenging year. We battled snow emergencies. We battled extremely low heavy metal prices that affected our bottom line. We lost a key employee, Mike Wilkin, who died in the line of duty as a Ramsey County Deputy Reserve. Mike basically managed our snow lot, which is out by the state fairgrounds and used for snow emergencies. So yes, we did have a challenging year, but we also had a successful year. We trained employees to fill Big Mike's shoes. We did well financially by maximizing the sale of vehicles online. One interesting vehicle we had was a 1966 Oldsmobile that was sold online and ended up all the way in Queensland, Australia, all the way from the St. Paul impound lot. I'd like to wrap it up and just let you know that this award means a great deal to me because of the organization and the city I am receiving it from. So I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
In 2005, we created an additional award for the Detective of the Year, since it became abundantly clear that the work of the detective was so different than that of the uniformed police officer. This year's nominees are two great detectives who were both doing some tremendous crime fighting in their own disciplines, homicide and the gang unit, but made an even bigger impact outside of their discipline by being creative and being willing to partner with others. Trish Englund, affectionately known as the Grande Dame of gun work in our department, which I think translates to old lady, but I'm not really sure. So I'm going to stay hidden behind this podium for a while. Has become the go-to person in homicide. Trish, in this last year or so, has come up with a new program called Saga, which has reduced violent crime in one of our two most notable gangs by literally about 100%. Jimmy Chou, who affectionately we know as was one of my CLOs back in my ACOP days. I remember him as a little skinny kid with less spiky hair, but I do remember that he was always there. Him and Yiling were kind of this dynamic duo that were unstoppable in ACOP. But he's all grown up now. He's moved into becoming a great street cop, and then when I needed someone to really stretch the gang unit, and I really needed someone to take on the challenge of helping me develop an Asian gang response. There was really nobody else I ever thought of but Jimmy. Jimmy was my go-to guy and is still my go-to guy in that unit, on one of the great leaders there in the organization. So both nominees are exceptional. The impact they've had on our city is truly both far-reaching and long-lasting. So the 2009 Detective of the Year is Sergeant Patricia Englund. The 2009 Detective of the Year is presented to you in recognition of your outstanding work in the homicide unit and reducing violent crime in St. Paul. Your expertise in tracking and identifying illegal guns has made you the top expert within our department and also throughout the metro area. Your work with conceiving the idea, writing, and helping to implement the Stop Armed Gang Activity SAGA grant to fight gang violence has substantially reduced the amount of violent crime committed by two targeted gangs, with a reduction overall of over 41% less violent crime committed by them. In part because of your work, St. Paul suffered only 15 homicides in 2009, which was the lowest in about a decade. More telling, though, is that the ag assault numbers dropped by over 400. That's the kind of impact that Trish's program has had. When the unit commander is unavailable, you are the executive officer in charge, and you have a remarkable ability to recall the details that put investigators on the right track right away. Your assistance you provide not only to homicide but other units in our department, and in some cases to other agencies, is invaluable and has made you a well-respected member of the law enforcement profession. You are a source of great pride to our department, and it's a great honor that we present you with this award. Sergeant Trish.
So I realize that I have a lot more in common with the mayor than I thought. I too grew up in the city of St. Paul and came here without any formal prepared speech. Part of the reason I didn't prepare a speech is because, you know, when I came on, one of the first things I think when I was working in the Eastern District, Vic and Topol came on a call with me, and I think I had tried to cancel the other squads, and they both reminded me that what we do every day is part of a team effort. No single person in this department does anything by themselves, and there are no single successes. It's always a matter of a team. And so because my understanding is that I'm nominated partly because of Saga, I think, Chief, you need to know who all of the years are. So Commander McNamara, if you could stand, and members of the gang unit. There's going to be a few, so if you can hold your applause and if you can stay standing for me, please. If you could stay standing for me, please. Senior Commander Neuberger, Sergeant Jane Lawrence and members of the Special Investigations Unit. Special emphasis on Sergeant Jeremy Ellison, Eric Van Sickler. Commander Warren, members of Narco, Nevert. If you could stand, please. Senior Commander Lynch and every member of the homicide unit who do outstanding work each and every day.